Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Three Men in Football. Hi lads.
Hi Thomas, Simon, how are we?
All good.
Hey lads, how we doing?
Yeah, good.
Good. Having a good weekend?
Yeah, the sun's been glorious, so it's been lovely sitting around in the sun, taking the dogs for a walk I don't own. It's been great.
Being able to give them back is important.
That's the bonus, mate. Like the kids.
Yeah, unfortunately we have to keep them, don't we? Or fortunately, depending on who you're talking to. So we've heard that football's coming back. How are we all feeling about that?
I think Thomas is happier than most, if I'm honest with you. And I don't know why, for some reason.
I'm just delighted. I'm really excited to see how the last 9 games are going to go. There's massive implications for a lot of teams still there, yourself included, Darren with Villa. Are they going to survive? Are they going to go on a run and finish mid-table? You just don't know what's going to happen. I think it's already sewn up. Liverpool are going to win it, but you never know. So my nerves, I'm still on edge, and the fact that it's been announced, I am delighted.
So the date is the 17th of June, and it were the 2 games, Daz. I think one might be a big game, and the other one's like not that important.
So the big game, of course, is the Villa United, the Sheffield United game. It's the game in hand that we were meant to play, and if Villa win that one, we come out of relegation, and I think after that we should just stop the league.
Yeah.
Well, that first week midweek games have got massive implications. So City play Arsenal. I think it's away, depending on whether it's the neutral grounds bit is avoided at the Etihad. If City drop points and Liverpool beat Everton, if we play it at Goodison, Liverpool are champions.
Wow.
Come on!
All right, so listen, we'll get into this in a bit more detail as we get closer to the time. But just before we get going, cheers, by the way.
Oh, cheers, everyone.
Cheers.
Cheers.
A little bit of advertising going on there. Nice cup of tea.
That wasn't rehearsed at all.
Yeah. Thomas, what have you got in yours, mate?
Yeah, Lucasade. With a bit of vodka.
So we're going to kick off with some feedback from people who have been watching and listening. And also we've got a little special guest today who we will introduce a little bit later. So the first comment that I've got, and a lot of this refers to the mental health podcast, which got some great interaction, excellent feedback, and it's obviously a really important point for everyone. This one really stood out for me. I've seen local lads who've known nothing but footy since they were young. And when they get injured, I have to rule them out for a lengthy spell, sometimes for the remainder of the season, and their heads fall off. This is from Kathy Heighton, who runs KH Sports Therapy. So Kathy works with clubs around Liverpool, works with players. And what she's telling us is that it's not only when players get released from clubs or bigger issues like that. It can be anything right down to someone gets an injury that rules them out for a couple of games and they struggle with it. And then if it gets more serious, someone does a knee injury or something and they've got 6 months off, then how do they cope with that mentally? And that's where she thinks people really struggle. I think it's a really good point.
I do. What's interesting is it follows on from a point by Agbonlahor from Villa, who was talking about a similar thing now, where if you get a slight injury this week or next week, that rules you out normally for 2 or 3 weeks, you're going to miss the rest of the season.
Yeah.
Because of the amount of games. And that's massive for teams both fighting for Europe and near the bottom. That can have an impact when you feel you can't help your team in this difficult circumstance.
Definitely. And Kathy's great. She's done a lot of work around the Ben Williams Charity Foundation, which has been great. And she's also at the moment suffering because her role is hands-on. So she hasn't been able to work. She's got all sorts of issues going back to work because the whole nature of what she does is hands-on. So it's a struggle for her. She was telling me that she's having to build a new shed in her garden so she can do her therapy. Not a great situation for her. We'll definitely talk about her again in episodes to come. But she's a good supporter. She loves the podcast and is giving us good feedback. The next bit of feedback is always great to see people talk about mental health. The more we talk about it, the more we make it normal and better. Like everyone, I've had issues and it takes a lot to talk. But seeing others do it might bring those less confident to actually open up. Well done again. Thanks for keeping me company on the drive to work, lads. And that's from Thomas's big fan, Dan, or Baby Perlo, as he likes to be known. Again, really good points. I think the more that we talk about it, and we will definitely do it again, the more it becomes normal. Prince William did a piece on mental health last week, which I think went down really well. And the more that we have conversations about it, the more it will become something we talk about all the time.
Yeah, totally agree.
Okay, we had loads about mental health, so I'm not going to go into too many, but it's definitely the case that everyone really enjoyed that session, really enjoyed the conversation that we had and the content. But this last one really got me as well. So we've now got a kind of recent listener who's a mate of mine, Johnny Pollock, and we've had a really good laugh for him over the last couple of weeks. But he sent me a message the other day, and it was brilliant. He said, "Is Thomas a recluse? He has talked about being a manager, but how does that work? He hates everyone that breathes oxygen if they are not associated with Liverpool." But then he went on. I was like, "You'd be surprised, actually. He's a really nice fella and he likes a lot of people." And he's like, "Not a chance. There's no way he'd have Everton supporters in his team." So then I explained to him that we've got a Villa supporter in Darren, and we've got a Man City supporter in Cy Watson, and then also we've got loads of Everton supporters in our team.
Yeah, it's a shame.
Yeah. He's a Man United fan.
Hey, but at our age, we do struggle for a side over 35, so I'll have to take anybody.
Yeah, great conversation with him. He's been brilliant on Facebook, been giving us loads of feedback and also throwing out a few ideas as well of what we should talk about.
Just done that as well, Si. What he's been very good at is getting other people involved. So huge thanks there for that.
Yeah, definitely. And then a couple of shout-outs. Sean McCusker giving us feedback every week. Ray Darby, which is someone that I've known for many years and Thomas introduced to the podcast. Dean Booth keeps giving us feedback. Love that.
And abuse.
And abuse, yeah. And then Paul Partington has joined the party.
Just when you thought it couldn't get any worse.
How do you feel about that, Des? How do you feel about it?
Great. I've never known him to be on social media at all. And I was quite shocked when we had to accept him in the old the Facebook page. So it'll be interesting how he gets involved. I want him to refer to himself as Darren's brother.
Because you've been referred to as Paul's brother for all of your life.
Yeah, literally all my life.
Yeah. So great to have Paul listening. So now we've got the entire Partington family, which is good. They're going to see how talented you are, Daz.
I doubt it, mate. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
My dad already thinks Thomas is the star of this show.
Yeah. Well, so does everyone who gets most of the feedback.
No.
Okay. So today we have a special guest that we're going to bring into the podcast for a bit of a conversation about multiple things. It's a lad who we have all played with and Thomas has managed through the years. Cy Watson is a absolutely fantastic player, but more importantly, a absolutely genuinely nice man. We all really enjoy his company, and we thought it'd be a great chance to get him into the podcast because he'll give us a different perspective. He supports Manchester City, and I know they're just about to lose the league, but you know they've had some success recently, so we'd like to get his input. So, are you looking forward to getting him on the podcast?
I am. I played centre half with Si for a number of years, and he used to win the ball, pass the ball, head the ball. He had pace, and quite often he'd say to me, "I don't know what you do." To which I replied, "Neither do I."
All right, we'll tell you what. Let's get him on and ask him to explain. Hello, Si. How we doing, mate?
Bonjour.
Oh, bonjour. He's got all French on us.
Bonjour. All the way.
He's
How we doing?
International.
Hey, Si, how you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. Thanks. Yourselves?
Yeah. Good. Thanks, mate.
All good, mate. How are you? How are you coping with the lockdown?
Do you know what? I'm not too bad. Still got a bit of normality and stuff because I'm still working. And I'm in full time, full time. I'm in school like once a week on provision, and the rest of the time I'm doing visits and networking and stuff. So I've still got that bit of normality, but spending more time with the kids and the family as well. So
yeah, sorry to hear that.
It's better for me. If it was going to stay like this, then I wouldn't be bothered at all.
Just before you came on, I was just briefly talking to how you used to be my centre half partner, and you were the one who used to head it, win the ball, pass it, sprint round. And you once said you're not sure what I do, and neither was I.
You spent all your time like proper like charming the referees and the strikers and stuff. It was like you had a packet of digestive biscuits. I'm like running all over the place and stuff, and you're like, oh yeah, let's get me practice me me stand up with the referees and stuff, and I'll practice stand up with the other players and stuff.
And that is so true as well. You spend all of your time chatting people up. It's brilliant.
He does.
And the thing is as well, the good thing for me was like you were like facing like third strikers and stuff, but I was like, Darren, just work your magic a little bit. Do you know what I mean? After about 5 or 10 minutes, these guys that were like supposed to be like wolves, were like, oh yeah, sound, yeah, I was doing this last night, and they're missing a ball, so it made it easy for me.
Do you know what was brilliant though? So that worked out really well for Simon Watson. It didn't work out so well for Dave Maloney because he used to get kicked up and down the field because no one wanted to kick Darren. It was too nice.
He was too busy eating double cheeseburgers on the sideline though, wasn't he, Dave?
Absolutely. With Paul Party.
Yeah.
So the difference between Dave and Paul obviously is Paul would then come on and score a hat-trick. Little bit different.
The sausage roll.
Exactly. Okay, so Si, you're a City fan, and we were just talking about the fact that football is coming back. How are you feeling about the fact that it's just about to start again?
Mixed emotions at the start. I think personally, I still don't think we're ready in terms of the safety for the players, but they seem to have everything sorted out. And when's going to be the best time? We could be waiting around for a number of months now. And I think now, if all the safety measures are in place, all the players that are involved in it now feel a bit more comfortable with it. I mean, last week we had Watford players, Deeney.
Yeah, Deeney, yeah.
Who was completely shot down all over social media because he was concerned because he'd not been given the right amount of information and stuff. And I think back then, if you've not got all the information, mentally, how are you going to start playing? Yeah. Seems now that they've had discussions with all the players and stuff, and I think it's time. I think we're all waiting for it to start again. Obviously, it's not going to be the same because, I'm a football fan. I want to be in the ground. Want to be in the ground, want to be supporting it. I've been watching Bundesliga, which is good, but at the same time, without the atmosphere and stuff, the whole point of watching Bundesliga is because of the atmosphere. So for me, I feel myself drifting away. That's my only concern. And obviously, Liverpool, it's going to be a matter of time before they win the league as well. Yeah. So,
wow,
we should just give them the title. Start the season off till next year. Just give them the title.
Well, that'll make it even worse.
Yeah, just on that side, when we sack the season off, no relegation.
Yeah, he's got a vested interest, Si. All right, so Thomas is just about to have his greatest moment, and maybe me with Liverpool winning the league. But one of the reasons why we got you on is to share your greatest moment. You support City. You've also been around footy for many years, and City have had some amazing success recently. But also, they had years and years where they were not a good team at all. So looking back at what you've been through in terms of a fan over that time, what is your greatest football moment?
See, with being a City fan and stuff, it changes every week, doesn't it? Like as you said, like when I was a teenager, we were in like the third tier of English football. So for me, like your greatest moments would change every week. If we went away to Port Vale and got a win, I'd be buzzing for like 6 months over it because City just didn't win away from home. But then we had the final against Gillingham, didn't we? Which changed everything. Yeah. And that was another one. We scored 2 goals in injury time. That was our greatest moment for a long time, but it's the Aguero moment every time. Yeah. If that wouldn't have happened, then would City be where they are now? Do you know what I mean? And to be honest, being there at the ground and obviously everyone's almost crying, and you score 2 goals in like the last 5 minutes in injury time, and to make it even better as well, United thought they'd won the league. Yeah. But I watched the footage back now on Sky and YouTube and stuff, and I'm not bothered about Aguero scoring. I'm just too interested in watching all the United fans in the crowd, like on the mobile phones, just going, "Oh, did it win it?" And then it's Ferguson's face and stuff. So a mixture of Aguero's goal and watching Fergie's face is probably the best moment of non-playing football of my lifetime.
Brilliant. So that was right up there for us as well. We talked about that quite a lot on another podcast, because I think no matter who you support, unless you're a United fan and you felt the other side of that, you can't help but get excited when that ball comes into the box and he just takes it off to the right. I mean, that's a special moment, that, isn't it?
Yeah, and then to make it even better, it was Balotelli's only assist ever in a City shirt and stuff as well. So when you're going to do something like that, then you save it to the best. You know what I mean?
And I think the Martin Tyler commentary just is superb alongside it.
Well, it's about time, because Martin Tyler is always for United, isn't he? Every time United play, I mean, when Martial first came in the scene and Martial got that goal, I was thinking, hang on a minute, who do you support, mate?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? At least like when you got the likes of Gary Neville and people like that, they're very balanced. You know what I mean? But Tyler, not too keen.
Thomas is not a fan.
I totally agree with you. I remember seeing Benteke's overhead kick. Do you remember that against United?
Yeah.
And it was an absolute worldie. And he went, oh, Benteke goal, thanks very much. You know, he just wasn't. And then Martial scores that goal where Skrtel fell over, or Carragher, I can't remember who it was. God, he was having wet dreams for weeks about it.
That was it. Well, there was that one. And then it was when Beckham had scored the goal from the halfway line. Everyone's raving on about it. The week after, David Batty scored, which was literally just further for the. But he's launched it. The keeper was almost on his line, firing in. To me, I was thinking, he's competing against it. Tyler, it was a good goal by Batty. That was it. Red line drawn under it. You know what I mean? So
totally agree.
But
sorry, have we started the wall of hate early, Simon?
I'll go back to it later, mate. I'll go back to it later on. Best play moment though, going back to your point side, was it's got to be the league Gary win.
Yeah.
When literally, how many goals did we concede as?
I think it was 13, mate, that season.
13.
It was the first league as a player that I have ever won. I mean, I've won a few trophies and stuff, but, you know, they were cup finals and stuff, and you can sort of argue, you know, a lot of teams can just win a cup final. A lot of it can depend on luck and stuff, but when you're playing in the Zingari Premiership and you go that season, with the teams that we were facing and the standard, and, you know, to be able to win, you know, that, I think as a team as well, we sort of understood everything about each other and stuff, do you know what I mean? So that's what made it especially better for me. So when I football in front, it'll be that.
And first time in 100 years for the old Zavs, who was the team that we played for at the time, to win it. It was so big for the club as well. So you kind of felt, for us, we were so close as a team that it was almost like it was just about the first team. We weren't really thinking about anything else. And then we won it. And I remember being back in the club and the impact that it had on everyone around the club and how excited everyone was, because we'd gone so long without winning it. And then to win it with the season that we had was fantastic. And what a group of lads.
Yeah, for me, you look and you think, individually, we probably, you know, I'm including myself in this, we weren't the best players individually, but as a team, you know, I think that defence, you were next to me, Si, and then we had Colin, we had Dave, and individually, apart from you, Si, I thought you were really good. We weren't brilliant, but as a team, as a four, I knew not many would get past us. Yeah. And I think that's where you look, and we had this discussion on podcasts with great teams and great players. You know, it was that great team that everyone knew each other's role. Everyone knew people's weaknesses, people's strengths, and we just went out. And I don't think I felt as confident playing for a team that season than I've ever played for.
Yeah.
Just on that league was the highest amateur league that you could win at the time in the Liverpool area. So it was some feat for us to win it.
Yeah, and I think the thing was, and the reason it makes it so special is because the teams that we were up against, as you said, Si, they were quality teams. You think about some of the teams that we were playing then, it was a difficult game every single week. We romped home.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
All right. So Thomas, I think you've got a question for Si as well, haven't you?
Yeah, Si, Liverpool's biggest rivals at the moment. But I wanted to ask you about the ownership of the club and what impact you think the owners have had, not only on City, but on European football as a whole, and the changes that the financials that they've brought into the football have done, whether it's been good or bad. And obviously, I'm assuming you're going to think it's good for yourselves, but...
Well, I mean, we'll go back to 2008, wasn't it, when Shaitman Sir come in? He spends 210 million on a club. I remember being in Egypt at the time on holiday and stuff, and I was getting text messages saying turn on Sky Sports, and then all of a sudden I've seen Tevez and Adebayor and everyone just walking into the club. I'm like going, what the hell's going on here? And I think as an outsider, people at the time, it was all about City were ruining football. Too much money was being invested. It wasn't fair on the rest of the teams in the Premier League. But at the same time, City needed to get going. He's bought a club. He's invested money into it, and he's fast tracked it, in my opinion and stuff. And as a City fan, I don't know one City fan that felt that it was untoward or it was unfair on other teams that were competing, because we just felt we needed this, because it was, City were up and down like a yo-yo anyway. And the one thing that we craved was stability. We needed to build a proper club. But before all that wouldn't have happened. If City wouldn't have beat Gillingham in the playoff final, we wouldn't have been able to move into the Etihad Stadium. That at the time was being used for the Commonwealth Games, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And I think all the shareholders have said, if you don't get promoted and stuff, then that'll be it. And City, it could have been one of those clubs like Sheffield Wednesday or Nottingham Forest. It just literally would have stayed stagnant down in the other divisions and stuff. But City didn't just build up on a team; they built it in the community. I mean, if you would have seen like Eastlands around that stadium at the time, it was junkyard. There was nothing going on. Poverty stricken, no schools. They've built schools. They've built, a community. Existing people that were in the area have been put into better housing. There's more jobs. There's more infrastructure around the area. So it's not just the club that they built; it was a community. And you feel that. You feel that when you go down. So in terms of all that, I haven't got any pause at all. Obviously, I've got mates who are United fans, and they hated it because they felt that we'd literally just started throwing money, here, there, and everywhere, and we were, the other clubs were getting sort of outsold on things and stuff, and to buy players. But for City, other clubs knew how much money City had, so all their prices got inflated anyway.
Yeah.
So you could have been like a mid-table team. You probably could have got a player for maybe 20 million less than what we were paying. So you've got to see it from all angles, haven't you, really? But yeah, I don't see anything untoward about it. Obviously, I can understand, certain clubs that feel that, we're ruining football and stuff like that. But really.
But is that not just the kind of standard response? I think you're right. So one of the things that you've just pointed out, which is totally lost, is the impact on the community. So as a non-City fan, we don't live in Manchester either. You wouldn't see a lot of that, and because you're not invested enough in what's going on behind the scenes. So to get that perspective is actually really interesting. I also suspect that that's the same with other clubs that have had big investments as well. The one area where I don't think that has happened is Chelsea, because of where they were already and because of that location and how much money there is there. I don't know whether that had the same impact on their community. But for the majority of football clubs that we know, it's surrounded by somewhat, they're absolutely working class environments. And generally, they're poverty-stricken environments as well. So if the investment is made in the right way, it can be really positive. But it's definitely changed football, and it's definitely taken a massive leap in terms of salaries for players, what City and other clubs have got to pay to bring players away. And I think you're absolutely right. It artificially inflates people's price tags because the reality is they know they can pay.
Yeah. I also think the point about being rich clubs coming in and getting bought and then just, going on to win the league, to a point, that's always happened. Yeah. Rich clubs are always at the top and poor clubs are always at the bottom. That's just the way football is. The money men speak and the money men get the players in. What I would say is that from a footballer point of view, you would argue it's made the league better because the better players have come over that wouldn't have come over here. So when these clubs get taken over by all these rich people, the money they invest in, and Simon, I think you're spot on there with the community. And I've been to City's training ground and complex, and it's phenomenal. And around there, it's getting built all the time, and it's great to see. But actually, the players they bring in are the ones we speak about every week on this podcast. How good they are, Aguero, Company, all those players for the top sides. And so, you'd argue then, without that investment in clubs, would Sky want to invest in the product because you're making the product better?
Well, yeah, I think there's a straightforward answer there. Absolutely not. And we've just done a podcast on greatest foreign imports to the Premier League, and there are so many of them. We had a really long list. That's why Sky are willing to invest the money they're willing to invest. Now, you could argue about how that money spread out and how it's shared out with the lower divisions and all that kind of stuff, but there's no way that Sky would have invested so much money. And it's not just Sky. It goes further than that, because you've now got, places in the States that are, or channels in the States that are showing it. And elsewhere all around the world, the Premier League is shown all over the world. The amount of money that you make because of the quality you've got in the league is what makes a real difference and what attracts all those amazing players.
I think the one stumbling block though is people are still now thinking, because of the size of it now, and Sky basically have got ports in every single country in the world now.
Yeah.
I mean, if you go to Italy, Sky France. People now think that it's just a business, it's a company. And I think in some ways, then you start thinking, well, as football lost a little bit of its essence, in the sense that, are we actually providing a business or service to, as we said before, the people in the community that are a bit more deprived, that are struggling, to even afford Sky. I know that now they're talking about there's going to be 3 games from 3 o'clock now, but that should be getting done, and I just think at times, certain parts of the community do get sort of outsold, but that's another argument for another time, maybe. Do you know what I mean? But in terms of the football side of things, I don't think that the investment that was made with City has had a negative impact. I think it's been positive in my view.
Can I ask you a question, Si?
Yeah.
So talking from Man City when they were in the second division, if you like, the first division, and then coming to the Premier League, who are your favourite players? Who are the players that because Sean Gota, was a legend at City in the lower leagues, if that makes sense. And then you had going back even further, you had David White and Quinn and people like that. So who was your go-to guy who you thought, he's a City man?
I think as I was growing up, David White and that crowd, that crew of Flitcroft and Redmond and Brightwell and stuff they were the young ones that were coming through at the same time, the Golden Generation United were coming through. But I think it was a little bit past that when Keith Curl came in. He was the coolest centre half that had, the best little throw I've ever seen in my life, with plenty of soul glow on his hair and stuff. And he was the man at the time, because I used to sort of sit in the North Stand and used to sort of get a good view of the way he defended and stuff, and he would be punching and kicking 7 bells out of players before they went on. And I think he was the captain for a long time. And I know a lot of my friends, they liked White, they liked Quinn when he came through and stuff like that. But so it'd be Keith Curl in the early days, but the one player that is still probably my favourite ever player was Ali Benabia. When he came, and he's still not talked about enough in my view. He was the Algerian god that came over and sort of changed the way City started to play the football. So
great player. Love that. All right, so Tom, do you want to ask Si, just before we let him go, do you want to ask him the question about the topic that we're just about to talk about?
Okay, Si, we're going to talk about pundits and who our favourite pundits are over the years, not commentators. So don't get confused like I did, which I get confused about a lot of things. Who's your favourite pundit?
This is probably going to annoy a lot of City fans.
You can go in the past if you want, so you can pick one from any era.
Well, I think some of the past pundits for me were a little bit too mundane, and at times could be quite biased and stuff. I like Roy Keane, even though I hated him, as when he played for United and stuff. Great player, but he says it how it is. And to be honest, Gary Neville, he's exactly the same. He says it how it is. He's partial. The one pundit I like listening to, who sounds to have the most sense about him, and is quite articulate, is Danny Murphy at the moment. So, in terms of the modern day pundit and stuff, I'd go along with Danny Murphy.
Brilliant. That's a really good one. He'll definitely get in the list. All right, Si. So before we let you go, and you mentioned Soul Glow before, which I know was a nice little drop in there. So you've started a podcast recently as well, and tell us about it. What are you doing?
Yeah, well, at the start, it was just an idea of me and one of my friends, one of my best friends growing up, and it was about just putting something on that was probably going to relate to a lot of stuff that we were all, into, which was comedy. films and food. When we're in the pub after the games, we quickly go off the subject of football after like an hour, and then we start talking about the usual, coming to America, trading places and things like that. So we thought, you know what, just for a laugh, like we'll just like sort of do a podcast and we'll try and put it into a little bit of a thing about comedy and mix a little bit with football. And it took off quite well. I mean, we got like 400 or 500 views in space for a couple of weeks on one of them. So, but we've developed it a little bit now. We've sent out the feeders to a lot of people, and we wanted to make it inclusive. So, in the week, we're putting on daily menus and recipes for families and kids, especially with lockdown at the moment. I know there's a lot of dads at the moment that are sort of in the kitchen a lot more now. So we've got that going on. But obviously with the season starting soon as well, we're going to be doing a rundown in the week about what's coming up in football, and there'll be discussions. Necessarily some of the topics that you're discussing as well, to be honest with you. But one of the things that we will be talking a lot about is mental health. And mental health in sport in general as well. So I'm really, really pleased that you did that topic a couple of weeks ago. But just before I go, I think it's really important that even some of the people that we're associated with in the South, they've been brave enough to come forward and talk about some of their, experiences, with mental health and stuff. I'm not going to mention any names, but I think when you put things out like that and people, you get the positive feedback, but also people that, care about and stuff, they're able to sort of share their difficulties, and especially with men, it's a big issue with mental health and stuff, and we need to talk.
It's the best. It's definitely the best one we've done so far, because we all felt really passionately about it, and I think that came across. And you're right, the feedback has been great, but on that subject, it didn't really matter. It was more about people actually feeling like it was okay to talk about it, and I think that's a really good point. So, Si, tell us the name of your podcast.
Some podcasts called The Mighty Sharp Tongues. Just in case you've never watched Coming to America, there's a barbershop in Coming to America called Mighty Sharp. And it was about a lot of barbers that discussed everything about the best boxers of all time, lots of other things and stuff. So we sort of based our podcast on that type of stuff.
Love it.
Simon, sorry, can I just ask, is that where Eddie Murphy played about 3 of the barbers or something? And,
that's right. That's right. He even played the white Polish man in the thing as well. So
what a brilliant film. Loved it. All right, mates. Listen, thanks for coming on. You've been brilliant as we expected, and we'll definitely get you on again in the future. And we'll talk a little bit more about the Mighty Sharp Tongues.
All right, mate. Thanks a lot for having me on, guys.
Cheers, Si.
Mate. Bye.
Mate. See you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Brilliant. So that was exactly the way we expected it to go with Si. Great lad. We've known him for many years. I think the great thing about him is that he's articulate as well in the way he's putting his views across. And I love the take on City. Great question, Tom. I love the take on City's investments in the community as well, because a lot of that's lost.
Yeah. And I think it is lost. And I think Thomas will probably know more about this, about what Liverpool are now trying to do in the community, similar thing. And lots of other clubs are suddenly realising, actually, without the community, you've lost your club.
Yeah, I totally agree. Liverpool and Everton have both got in the community teams that do so much. So on Breckside Park, where you used to play, Si and Darren, on the hub there, they do training sessions for children through schools, disabled kids. There's all kinds going on. Everton do their own in their hub down on Spellow Lane. They're absolutely one of the top clubs for giving back in the country. And Liverpool and Everton fans should be really proud of the clubs of what they give back. But what I didn't expect was the help towards financing the infrastructure around the ground. That I've been down there myself to the Etihad and seen, the stuff that's around it, like the tram station and the training ground and all that kind of stuff. But I wasn't expecting him to say, City will finance schools or building better housing or sustainable housing. And it was a bit of a shock. So, it's really good.
It's good to hear, mate. I think that's a really good perspective, because we wouldn't know that. As I say, we're just up the road from Manchester, but you just wouldn't know it.
Yeah, just on that, my school and lots of schools and communities, Red Neighbours, which is a Liverpool football club type franchise, they've been supporting schools and vulnerable families in the lockdown with breakfast bags. Wow. And so, our school has benefited and our community's benefited, and Si, who works in the school up from me, we've benefited from that. And the great things in the community that these clubs are doing, I always want them to do more because that's the nature of the beast. But actually, you have to start somewhere, and huge thanks to those clubs.
Yeah. So, Tom, one question I have for you, you might know the answer to this. Why haven't Liverpool and Everton done something with Stanley Park?
It's protected. So Liverpool applied years ago to put that ground on with Hicks and Gillette, didn't they?
Yeah.
Got the planning permission. They knocked down the Vernon Sangster. They did invest in Breckside Park.
Yeah.
To put a community centre and a sports hub in the community close by. But then, and they did invest millions of pounds in restoring some of the walls. I don't know what them things are called that you'd stand under, the fancy old Victorians rubbish things. You know what I mean?
I'm not going to help you.
I'm finding it hard anyway to describe them. They did put millions of pounds into the park for doing it up. And also, they were supposed to improve the football pitches, but I mean, we've done a lot of pre-seasons on there, haven't we? And the pitches were never great. The play area got improved and stuff, and the glass house, where one of our friends got married in there, that was done up, and they spent quite a lot of money on that. So I don't know whether it was to do with the council and the club.
But I'm more thinking about the football side of it, and I mean, maybe that's why I've got a bit of a tainted view, because the football side of it is poor, and you would expect, being in between the two clubs, it seems like a really easy place for them to have a really good impact on the community. And I just don't think they've done enough. I also think that it'd be a really good opportunity for them to do something together, which again would say a lot to the community.
Yeah, I think because of the uniqueness of the grounds being so close to each other, you would almost like to see a bit more of a partnership.
Definitely.
Now Everton obviously are moving in the next couple of years, or hoping to move in the next couple of years. You don't know what's going to happen now.
Never going to happen.
Okay. So Thomas mentioned it before. What we want to move on to now is talking about the greatest pundits. Now, we've heard some amazing punditry over the years, and we've seen some great combinations, some great pundits. But we'd like to figure out who we think are the best pundits. We'll end up picking one each, or one pair each by the end of this. But let's throw it open. What have you got, Dan?
So I've got someone who, when I was growing up, he was a class player, and he moved into. He didn't want to go into management. He had a couple of offers. I read today he had an offer to go to Huddersfield to manage after his career ended. He spent a season at Sky in 91-92, and then moved across to the BBC. And basically, I felt stepped up the punditry from the Jimmy Hill days, if that makes sense. And it's Alan Hansen.
Yeah. I had him on my list as well, and he was brilliant. And he was another one. Simon's just mentioned Roy Keane and his ability to just say it how it is. And Hansen was brilliant at that. He was great at just stating exactly what was in his head, although we obviously have got that one famous comment that he made about United.
Yeah.
You won't win anything with kids. And then United went on to dominate for 20-odd years. And
it was funny because Villa beat them on that day. That was the opening day of the season, and Villa beat them. And I remember thinking, we're going to have a good season here. Yeah. It didn't pan out that way.
I've got an even better quote from him, which a lot of people haven't picked up on. And it was in the 94 World Cup. He turned around commentating on or talking after the game to say a player deserved to be shot for his performance because it was that bad. Little did he know, a Colombian player had scored an own goal the day before and got murdered by the cartels.
No, who was the player that he said should be shot?
Oh, okay, I don't know. I think it wasn't anything to. It didn't come. It wasn't him that was shot. It was the Colombian player the day before that scored an own goal. Like a Colombia knocked out the group stage.
Brilliant. He was great.
But I also think it was at a time when technology hadn't really kicked in for the pundits yet. And so they were basically just there, and they would show clips, and he would talk to it. But I think he did it in a way where you knew he knew what he's talking about, and quite often that's difficult to come across, as us three have proven.
Well, he was such a good player as well that people respected him, didn't he? And I think that made a big difference. Someone who was very different to him that I've got on my list is Ian Wright. So he's doing Match of the Day at the moment with Shearer and Lineker, and he's brilliant. He's must-watch TV. Now, he's much like Thomas. He's all over the screen. He can't sit still, and you never know what he's going to say. But I think his take on football is brilliant. He talks a lot about his perspective and what it was like for him when he was a player. And I think it comes across really well, better than most, I'd say.
His enthusiasm and energy on the screen is just totally infectious.
Yeah.
It's superb. You're right, you can't take your eyes off him. And he gets so excited about some of the smallest points, and you think, go on. Yes, he's just brilliant. You just can't stop watching him.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think he's one who's got better over the years. I think when he first came on, I wasn't a big fan of his.
Yeah,
I thought he didn't really talk much sense. That's only my opinion. But I do think he's got better. I do love his passion. I do love it when they go to clips when he's not meant to be on the screen and he's jumping up and down when England score or do something great.
Yeah.
And I think that's what it's about. And these guys have still got the passion for the game. So he's got to be up there if you're looking for passion and excitement.
But it's really funny because I think you're right, Daz. When he first started, he was almost a little bit boring, wasn't he? It was almost like he was trying to be like everyone else. And then all of a sudden he's realised that that's getting him nowhere. He's doing what he wants to do, saying what he wants to say, and he's coming across brilliantly. And then on the other side of the table to him is Shearer. And now I think if you were to put those two together maybe 5 years ago, it'd have been crap. Yeah. Because Shearer is really dry. Obviously a funny man, but really, really dry. And Wrighty is a bit mad, but they just weren't like that before. Shearer was still really dry, and Wrighty didn't really have a personality on screen. Well, now, them together, I think, make a really good pair.
I do think Shearer's another one, though. When he first came on, he came on with the likes of, you know, the Hansons, the Lawrences, those people who were comfortable with Lineker there. It was almost like a little boys' club in many ways, and he was just, yeah, we're good at this, we know we are. And Shearer came on and didn't know how to quite do it or put himself across, because he was always on the pitch seen as a serious guy, serious character. But again, he's someone who I think has developed, and he's the BBC's #1 pundit now. I think he's for the top shows. And again, it's interesting because most of the pundits, I think the good pundits are defenders and one or two midfield players. And I was interested in having a striker as the pundits, because quite often I'm going to be controversial, they don't see the big picture.
Oh, here we go. Alienated the audience.
Yeah, we're not messing about now.
No, I think it's a fair point, and he's definitely got a broader perspective now. You look at him and Wrighty's the same. They've developed that over time. They've not just all of a sudden become great pundits. But I also love about Shearer, he swore on live TV, didn't he?
Did he?
Yeah, not so long ago, which was brilliant. And it was just dead natural as well. It was just like he was having a chat with the lads, and then they're doing this match of the day stuff at the moment, and they're allowed to swear, but they beep it out. So him and Wrighty swear all the time, like constantly. But I think those two come across really well.
Thomas, who's yours?
I've got a huge list, but I don't really like them. But we've got to talk about them very briefly, just because the programme changed the way we watch football now. So Andy Gray and Richard Keys and Sky with Sky Foreman and the Premier League and Sky TV, the actual football, Super Sunday and Monday Night Football. It changed the way we look at football for programming. It changed the way we look at it as a show. You know, it's not 90 minutes football anymore. You tune in an hour, 2 hours before to watch, you know, interviews, to watch them dissect the last week's game and how the manager tweaked the tactics a little bit, to before interviews before the game with the managers down the tunnel or the captain. The halftime analysis, you know, is generally the same from other stuff that you've seen on other shows. But then afterwards, the pre-game or the after-game thoughts was just superb. It was just absolutely, the way they built the show up was great. I mean, they destroyed it by getting sacked and just being idiots. But what they've done is they've built a great platform now for the likes of Carragher and Neville, who are bound to be on our list, and the likes of Roy Keane, who is another one that I absolutely love as a pundit. But Gary Neville, you know, wouldn't be where he is without them too. So we've got to briefly talk about them. You know, they're not great, but they did change the way we watch football. I
think you're right, and you got that excited that you nearly knocked your computer over.
I know.
No, but, sorry, Simon. It's like watching a jockey. He's forward and back.
I think you're right. they did set it up for other people, and then what's happened is that Sky have just continually stepped it up. But then also, you've seen the BBC have stepped it up massively. So you look at things like the Match of the Day show now; it's entirely different than it even was 5 years ago. But yeah, they definitely started it. The person who is a constant now in Match of the Day and has been involved in the punditry for a long time is Lineker. I think he's brilliant. I think he comes across really well. He's great as a host, but also he's got some brilliant stories. So he's always kind of lacing in the serious stuff and the punditry, if you like, with the stories that he knows about the players, which I think comes across really well.
And I think what really helps is that he's been a footballer. So he understands what they're talking about quite often. If you're just a presenter, you're just presenting and you're asking questions that someone's told you to ask. Where if you're like Gary Lineker, who's played the game, you have more of an understanding and it becomes a conversation.
Definitely. Well, I mean, and that's happening on other channels as well. You've got presenters who are not ex-footballers, and I don't think it comes across as well. But I think he does a really good job. You've got a long list of people that have done like one or two, but Cy Watson mentioned one earlier, Danny Murphy.
Yeah, I like Danny Murphy in terms of how he looks at the game and what he looks for in a game. When he first came on, I was a bit unsure, but again, I think the more these players are true to themselves, the better it comes across in the punditry. You know, we spoke about Gary Neville and Roy Keane briefly. I love a little bit of bias. I love a little bit of having a go at their own teams they played for. I think it gives them more credibility when they do that. And I think Danny Murphy did that quite well when he came on, being a Liverpool player, and then he went on to Spurs and stuff. And and he's one of those ones I don't think gets enough airtime these days.
Yeah, but there's so many of them, isn't there? Well, Tom, so let's talk about Roy Keane. What's your take on Roy Keane?
I love him because he's so brutal. I love the fact that he is honest to a fault. He will literally, it doesn't matter whether he's your best mate, whether you were captain of his side, whether you played with him for 20 years. If you were rubbish, he says it. You are crap. The way he destroyed United under Jose Mourinho and destroyed Jose Mourinho, and a lot of the time rightly so, you know, it's unheard of. In the olden days 20, 30 years ago of watching football, you never have an ex-Liverpool player or an ex-Man United player go on and say anything negative about the club. Nowadays, the brutal honesty of it is just, it's brilliant. It's inspiring for other people to go on and say, like you're saying there, be yourself. I'm not a fan of Danny Murphy as a pundit. He just doesn't do it for me. But Roy Keane, he ticks all the boxes. I also absolutely love the fact that he'll sit there and when he's asked a question, he will answer it. Brutally honest. The last season, he was asked whether he'd want to watch United, and he said, I wouldn't pay £5 to watch them. He said, I'd pay you £50 to watch Liverpool. He said, because they've been brilliant this year. And I just thought how much you must hate Liverpool and how much that must hurt him to say it. But you've got to say it. If you're being paid to go on there and give an opinion, you know, stick to your guns. Be truthful. You know, like me, I am with me wall of hating and me support of Liverpool. I'm dead truthful.
You couldn't say you're not biased, mate.
No, I'm not. I'm just
whatever. Yeah, I agree with that one. I think he's brilliant. I loved when he's on. He takes over the any kind of conversation as well, because everyone almost defaults to him because they're just waiting for him to say something that's going to set someone off. And you can almost see whoever's the presenter are setting him up because they know where he's going to go with a comment, especially if it's about United, because he's gone right in on United. I mean, you think about the fallout he's had with Ferguson. And I think that definitely impacts the way he talks about United. I think if he'd never had that fallout, then I think it'd be a little bit more complicated. The fact that he's had that fallout, I think, makes him just be brutal to everyone. So it doesn't matter whether it's United, it's Liverpool, it's Everton, it's Villa. He's just going to say what he thinks.
Well, do you know, with regards to that, from him, the fella that sits next to him or he often replaces on Sky is very similar, just a bit more old school. Is Graham Souness. Yeah. Sorry, Darren, for cutting you off.
No, it's all right, mate. Yeah, no, I was just saying, the pundits I quite like to listen to are the ones who aren't middle of the road. I think there's too many who are protective of the business, if that makes sense. And I think Roy Keane, and you've just named them, Graham Souness, are brilliant because they're not protective. They don't have to be. You know, half of these guys are just trying to keep either the job or keep involved in some capacity. Roy Keane and Graham Souness do it because they love the game, and actually they want to say what they want, and they don't want to. They've got no comeback because they've won everything in the game. They've done everything in the game, and the way they played and the teams they play with, they were exceptional.
Yeah, that's who they are, and they're gonna say what they think no matter what, and why not? And you know what? I think that's kept both of them in a job as well. I mean, I think Souness went through a stage where I didn't think he was that great. I didn't think he was coming across that well. But I think as time's gone by, you listen to him now, especially if he's on with Keane, and he gives a really good rounded perspective, which I think is great. But while we're on that, the other two people that obviously right now are the main pundits are Neville and Carragher.
The Anton Beck of the soccer world.
Absolutely. And they've done a great job to again take it up a step. And who'd have ever thought that Neville and Carragher would be mates? Now all of a sudden they're mates and they're tweeting each other, but they give each other a load of crap. But you know, they're good mates. They get on really well, and it comes across really well when they're doing the punditry. Yeah,
I do like them. I think again. That they're biased towards their own team, but not overly biased. And I quite like that. I quite like that they will have a go at their own team, but the supporters as well of the team.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they come from it from that angle, which I think is really good. I think what's helped those two is they've only finished playing a couple of years ago. I think technology has moved the game, the punditry on, so they can then mess around with all the gadgets. And what it does do, it gives visuals for people to understand what they mean by this run or what they mean by this type of play and phase, second phase or third phase. And I think the visuals have helped those two really step up in the punditry.
I agree. Did you remember the first time they did it? It was like us the other week when we were doing the England 11. We were absolutely useless. Arrows not going right the way you wanted to. Carragher didn't have a clue what he was doing. But it was, I think they've done a great job. They've come on an awful lot, and they've really kind of revolutionised it again, which, to be fair, they probably needed it. One that I really don't like is Jermaine Jenas. How do you feel about him?
I like him. I think he does a good job. I think he talks a lot of sense. He's quite passionate about the game. And he seems to have a good vibe with players. The players seem to like him. So when he's talking about them and they're talking about him, he seems to get quite a good feedback. He's quite young and he's quite fresh out of the game. So his thoughts are quite current, whereas some of the pundits are some of them are a bit outdated. And I think he's got a lot of technical insight when he's talking about clubs from being around the clubs, and he breaks them down from like the inside. Tactics and how the team plays, and when he was involved, this is what we do to break this sort of team down, or to isolate a player, or work a system. I think he's really good.
See, I think he tries too hard to be different, and it comes across. I think he tries to be controversial, and it doesn't come across well at all. I get what you're saying, Thomas. I think it is good that I quite like the pundits who've just come out of the game, because they have got that insight and they are close to a lot of players and they do hear things and they are able to put the new coaching style across. But I just think he tries to be too controversial with some comments and he wants a reaction sometimes.
Yeah, that's exactly why I don't like him. It just comes across as a little bit fake at times. But again, who are we to say that he doesn't know what he's doing? We're just making this up as we go along. All right, so before we get to the point where we're picking our number one pundits, and you can also pick a combination if you want as well, let's just get a couple of honourable mentions. Daz, start with you. Who have you got?
I've got three I'd like to just mention here. I've got Lee Dixon.
Yeah,
and I quite like Lee Dixon when he's on the BBC, and he's done a couple of World Cups and Euros, and he comes across with good knowledge. Andy Hinchcliffe is another one. He does the Championship, and when Villa were in the Championship, he was excellent. You know, we did have him on Sky Sports the day after, or a Sunday morning, talking about the games, and I liked him. And my last one, who I think is very good on Soccer Saturday, is Matt Letizia.
Yeah. So it's a unique perspective with Andy Hinchcliffe, Daz, because we don't listen to him because we're not in the Championship and we've never been in it. I mean, no offence on anything, but, you know, got to know your audience here, Daz. Thomas, who have you got?
I've got Chris Kamara.
Yeah.
I absolutely love Chris Kamara, and I love all the memes that I've been seeing while everyone's been on lockdown. And I wrote it down today. Just gonna. So we're off to Fratton Park, and there's been a red card. But for who, Chris? And then he turns around and goes, "I don't know, Jeff." That's that. Just absolutely classic TV. Honestly, he was absolutely superb. But I asked your dad, Simon. I asked him, what he thought was the best, and he said, "Oh, there's only one best, and it was Saints and Greavesy."
Oh yeah,
he absolutely loved him. And then, funnily enough, I was walking around the shop, and I asked one of my neighbours. I said, "Oh, I'm doing a podcast later about Pundits. Who's the best?" He said, "The best one there ever was Brian Clough." He said he used to destroy the players. He just wasn't bothered. He said, "I told that boy he just wasn't good enough."
Well, he was the old school Roy Keane, wasn't he? Similar kind of character.
I can't remember watching him on TV.
Yeah, he was good. All right. So there's a couple of others that show up on a regular basis. I'll just run through them quickly. Robbie Savage, Jamie Redknapp, Michael Owen, Thierry Henry, Steve McManaman, Paul Merson, who I really like, Alan Smith, Owen Hargreaves, who was on the German one, who I can't stand. Martin Keown, who I think is actually okay, but he's maybe a little bit wooden at times. And then there's a long list of others, but there are some that stand out from the rest. So let's go round and pick either the individual or the pair that we think are the best pundits, starting with you, Tom.
I'm going to go with Neville and Carragher. I think they're outstanding. The banter and the passion that the two of them show, and also the technical knowledge and emotion that they put into the football is second to none. I think they're absolutely superb, and we're going to go a long way to beat them too.
Yeah. Okay, Daz, what do you think?
I can't really disagree with what Thomas has said. I think both of them together are excellent, and I think they tell it as it is. Can't argue with that, Thomas.
Okay, so we're going to agree again. I'd go with them too. I would just say that a very, very close second, and I'd love to see him more with Neville and Carragher, is Roy Keane.
Oh, yeah.
I think if those three together, actually, the dynamic between Keane and Carragher is hilarious. You know, that argument that they had not so long ago. Yeah. I think those three together would be amazing. But he is a very close second for me, because I love to see him. When I know that he's commentating, I'll tune into the game earlier. Or sorry, being a pundit, I'll tune into the game earlier, and I'll stay later as well, because I want to listen to the stuff that he says.
Do you know what I do think is technically very, very good to listen to is Glenn Hoddle, but that's something else to discuss.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so we're going with Neville and Carragher as the best two pundits that we have seen in our lifetime. I think that's a good choice. All right, Thomas, so let's get to the part of the podcast that everyone loves to see. Who's on your wall of hate this week? Who are you mostly hating?
Well, this week I'm going with a Leicester legend, or he thinks he's a legend, whose sole purpose on the pitch was to just wind up absolutely everybody, including his own teammates. He's now a pundit and a radio host, and I've aligned him with that weapon, Adrian Durham from Talk Sport. Their MO is to go out there and just upset a fan base so that they will jump on the phones and cause chaos on the phone lines to get clickbait. It is just horrendous. This week I'm hating Robbie Savage.
You know, you can hear the crowds cheering that you just named Robbie Savage.
So in 1992, Robbie Savage was in the Man United youth team that won the Youth FA Cup. He was one of them darling kids that was supposed to come through and shine. Not Robbie Savage. He didn't make one appearance for Man United because he was crap. Fergie got rid of him. So he went on to Crewe. He didn't do much there. He put a transfer request in because he thought he was magic. He ended up at Leicester. Absolutely used it. So he made it with Leicester to the 99 League Cup final. And the last man to get sent off at the old Wembley was just in Edinburgh for a push on Robbie Savage. Robbie Savage threw himself like an international ballet star. He threw him down like an absolute fool that he is. And Edinburgh, unfortunately, got sent off. But I'm so glad because Tottenham went on to win the game after all Robbie's cheating. He jumped ship from Leicester to Birmingham because he single-handedly took Leicester down. And he won Player of the Year for Birmingham. Birmingham must have absolutely been shit because if Robbie Savage has won your Player of the Year, you are absolutely useless. He then got a little bit big for his boots and he asked for a move so he could be closer to his parents in Wrexham. Closer to his parents from Birmingham to Wrexham. He moved to Blackburn. It's the exact same distance. The absolute weapon was a crap footballer and he's absolutely useless at geography as well. So, in 2005, he retired from Wales. Well, that's what he called it, he retired from Wales. What actually happened was the mighty legend John Toshack from the mighty Liverpool, who was Wales manager at the time, told him, "You crap, son. You're not playing for us again. Off you go." In his eyes, though, he retired. So he went on to do a lot of other things, radio. But his biggest thing that he's probably known for recently is going on Strictly Come Dancing, where he done the infamous knee slide and he slipped over and broke his nose. He's an absolute weapon. He made a name for himself in that brilliant Martin O'Neill side with great players like Muzzy Izzet, Emile Heskey, Neil Lennon, and Robbie Savage stole a living. That's why he's going on this week's Wall of Hate.
That's a good one, mate.
He's a weapon.
I enjoyed that one. I think you'll get a lot of people agreeing with you on that one. What do you reckon, Daz?
I like him.
Surprise, surprise.
Me or Robbie Savage?
Both. Yeah, he was one of them. I mean, you know, he's one of them players that if he's in your team, you're going to defend him.
Yeah, definitely. He's one of them you love to hate, but he did great for the teams that he played for.
Oh, yeah.
I get your points on that. Actually, he should have done a lot better being in that United team. But back to what we were saying a couple of episodes ago, that doesn't happen for a lot of players, and a lot of people drop out. He obviously couldn't quite make it, but he made a decent career for himself, and look at him now.
Yeah.
I mean, he's on TV or on radio all the time. He's got to be doing something right. And I mean, that hair is ridiculous as well. I can't believe he didn't give him crap about his hair.
I can't believe, Thomas, you didn't.
I like his hair.
I can't believe you didn't mention that he loves Liverpool because of his wife or girlfriend.
To be honest, I was just going to say that, Darren. He's married to a girl, a Liverpool fan, and he is quite generous in his compliments to Liverpool a lot of the time. So, but he is someone that you love to hate. So, you know, sod that. He's getting it.
He's in there. All right, thanks for that, Thomas. Darren, have we got a quiz question this week?
We've got a quiz question, yeah. So it's going well on the Facebook. A couple of people having a few guesses of who they think they are. So it's good. I'm hoping no one Googles. So this week, this player played for a team that was also the city for where he was born. He made his debut in the FA Cup. And at the time of his first transfer, he was the second most expensive teenager in Britain. In his full season in the Premier League, he won the PFA Young Player of the Year award. And towards the end of his career, he returned to the club where it all started.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I know who it is, Darren.
Yeah, I think I know as well. I think I know. But
Thomas, you know it every week.
Yeah, you say the same thing all the time, mate. It's not the way it works.
I do know it. I just don't want to spoil it for the listeners.
Okay, say nothing. Let's get it on the Facebook page, Jazz.
Put it up tonight. Oh, no, I'll put it up this week.
Yeah. All right, Daz. So give us your final thoughts before we wrap up.
Okay, so the punditry now is becoming an art form, I think, for lots of ex-players, and it gives them a platform. And what it does do, it gives the ordinary folk like you and I an opportunity to the insight into the beautiful game. And Sky Sports and the BBC and BT do a great job, and may it long continue. Love it. Thomas?
Mine was more about clubs putting back into society and helping the local communities. And I know, like I said earlier on the podcast, that Liverpool and Everton do brilliant stuff right around the city, raise loads of money, help loads of vulnerable people. And I'd really like to know a bbit more about that. And, you know, hopefully one day we'll get someone on that can tell us a bit more about what local team, you know, what the clubs do in the community, just so we have, because we wouldn't know half the stuff that they do.
Yeah, really good point. I think that's the thing that I take away from this episode. Cy Watson is an absolute natural, came across really well, and also is really knowledgeable about what Man City have done for the community, which I think we all miss because we're not in that community. So it's great to hear. A really good episode. For those who are listening, please visit the new website at www.3menandfootball.com. Give us feedback. Tell us what you think. It's a new website. It's a new look. There's some interesting stuff on there. We also have a blog from Darren and I, which you're welcome to read and tell us what you think. And then also, we're going to start a new segment in the next couple of weeks. It's called Jobs for the Boys. And the point of it is that we're going to talk about people who we know who have their own businesses, who work within a local community, and people who we think can help our listener base out and with jobs that they need doing, things like plumbers, things like physical support. We've also got a couple of builders that also listen to us now as well. So I'm sure we can talk about many. Please let us know if you want to be included in that, and we'll have a little conversation about your business. So thanks, lads. Appreciate the time. Great podcast. Really enjoyed it today, and see you on the next one.
See you later, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.